Shabbat Shalom. This week we read from parashat Yitro. Let's situate ourselves in this moment of Israelite and Jewish history. Last week, in parashat Beshalach, we experienced the exodus from Egypt. Chased by the chariots of the fiercest army in the world, the Israelites ran into the sea, where God caused it to split, allowing them to pass through on dry land. Then the waters closed behind them, drowning Pharaoh and his army. But it wasn't smooth sailing on dry land. Food and water were scarce, and the Israelites relied upon God to provide for their needs. Battles, too, weren't left behind at the sea. The Israelites came under attack by Amalek and fought, again with God's assistance, to survive and defeat their foe. Now we enter our Torah portion, and with imminent threat to their lives behind them, or on hold for the time being, the Israelites stand ready to receive their mission, a mission and vision that guides us even today. Yitro is divided into 3 sections. Each one teaches a vital concept for Jewish life. We begin with a prologue, crescendo with the Decalogue, the 10 Commandments, and close with an epilogue. Prologue. Yitro, for whom our portion is named, is Moses' father-in-law. Moses had been on family leave, that is, leave from his family, while leading the people out of Egypt. His father-in-law now arrives at camp with Moses' wife Zipporah and 2 sons, Gershom and Eliezer. As the family reunites, Moses enthralls Yitro with the story of the Exodus. Until today, we retell this experience each year at the Passover Seder. It is formative to the Jewish communal psyche. In its telling, we establish, 1, the supreme value of freedom. Slavery and Judaism are anathema. One must be free and the master of their own time to pray to our God. 2, empathy for the stranger. In Deuteronomy, it states, "You shall love the stranger because you were strangers in the land of Egypt." 3, the observance of Shabbat. Each week we recall in the Kiddush over wine that Shabbat is celebrated in commemoration of the Exodus. Upon hearing all that God had done for the Israelites in freeing them from slavery in Egypt, Vayichad Yitro. Our sages differ on how to translate the word Vayichad. Some say Yitro rejoiced. Others say the root is Yachad. Yitro became as one, joined together with the Israelites. There's an opinion that the root is Chad, sharp. Yitro, the Midianite priest, underwent circumcision, a sharp knife, and became an Israelite. This is the power of the Exodus story. It is our formation story. Hearing and retelling it transforms us into insiders in the Jewish experience. Our shared history and the values we derive from it have guided us for millennia. Decalogue, the 10 Commandments. You know the significance of the 10 Commandments. Every few years, a major row erupts about the appropriateness and legal right for them to appear in public school classrooms, courts of law, and state buildings. While these 10 statements are revealed in our Torah portion, you might not have realized that how to count to 10 changes based on your orientation. The Jewish version counts a different 10 than the Protestants do, and the Catholics yet a different 10. No matter how you count, they retain great power and significance. For Jews, with our Torah revealing 613 mitzvot, commandments, the experience of Mount Sinai is about more than the receiving of these particular laws. The Israelites were given 3 days to prepare for the event at Mount Sinai. They laundered their clothes abstained from relations, and sanctified themselves. They encircled the mountain, and on the third day, they experienced a divine show that shook the mountain with fire, lightning, and the sound of the shofar, and the revelation of God's self to the people. Just as each of us is obligated to feel as though we ourselves were personally taken out of Egypt, so too does the Jewish tradition teach that each of us alive today was present at Mount Sinai. Revelation at Sinai was not experienced by one generation alone. God reveals God's self to each of us. Epilogue. We close out our Torah portion with an epilogue. Before we turn there, we must ask ourselves, what words can be uttered following the impactful and transformative moment of Sinai? What could be missing and from the most significant experience of our people? The answer? How? How to construct our society in the image of God. Our parashah's epilogue contains within it the three teachings that mark the boundaries of Jewish society. Jewish civilization will only go forward if we abide by these three teachings. These guideposts are so instructive that we are taught in the Talmud, in Masechet Sanhedrin, better to martyr oneself than violate any of these three. Allow me to read these laws out of order. Lo tasuniti Elohei chesed ve'Elohei zahav lo tasu lachem. You shall not make any gods of silver, nor shall you make for yourselves any gods of gold. Idolatry is outside the bounds of Israelite and Jewish society. Lo ta'aleh b'ma'alot al mizbechi asher lo tagaleh ervatcha alav. Do not ascend my altar by steps, that your nakedness may not be exposed upon it. I'll explain. In a time when people wore tunics and didn't benefit from the invention of underwear, stairs presented a problem. Therefore, religious functions employed ramps. But this law is about more than steps. It's about sexual propriety. Israelites, Jews, honor human dignity. Our bodies reflect the divine image and cannot be desecrated by ourselves or others. V'im mizbach avanim ta'aseh li, lo tivne eten gazit, ki charbecha henafta aleha v'atachal eleha. And if you make for me an altar of stones, do not build it of hewn stones, for by wielding your tool upon them, you have profaned them. Iron, steel, the metals that make weapons of war, may not be used in shaping God's altar. The echoes of war and bloodshed have no place in God's home. Judaism is not a death cult, one that prizes blood over life. The altar where we pray, meet, and experience our God must be designed as a representation of our aspiration for peace and tranquility. This week, we were once again shaken awake to the reality that our people's enemies share none of these values: God, human dignity, or prizing life above death. With the release from captivity of Eli, Ohad, and Or, we were jolted back 80 years. The starvation they endured, having been chained and kept in tunnels without light for over 16 months, marks their captors as adherents of nothing more than a death cult. You and I are disabused of any willed naivete we might have held on to. No longer can we imagine that the hostages who remain alive have any time to wait. They are on the precipice of death, and the world must stand with us in demanding their immediate release. And let's also be clear. There is no future for any form of civilization that feeds on blood. In parashat Yitro, we, the Jewish people, are given our mission. We must remember our past, retell our history, and learn from it. We are the people who were present at Sinai and to whom God was revealed. And as we move forward in the world, we must hold up and prize human dignity and carry a vision of peace. When most nations, great and small, crumbled, this is how the Jewish people survived against all odds.